Got another video today. This one is on 3/8 drive ratchets, flex head to be more specific. We got a snap-on Nepros and Koken, so two Japanese made and then one USA, of course, for the snap-on. I did shoot this video earlier, or was in the process of doing so, and then my camera died, which is why everything's kind of already torn apart. But we'll just shoot in reverse instead of putting everything back together and retaking it apart. Probably not going to tear everything completely apart, but just have these plates off so you can see into them and see the different mechanisms on how each brand is made. For the snap-on, it's the FL80. I bought that about 9 years ago, I'd have to say. It was a buy one, get one free deal. It came with a 1/4-inch flex head ratchet, which was, I believe, my first tool truck purchase, or one of them. Definitely, probably my first from Snap-on, I would say. And it was my main ratchet for a few years before I started collecting all these. So it's held up fine. Point is, I've had no issues. But if you go to their website, FL80 no longer comes up with anything on Snap-on. So I don't know if it's discontinued or not, but there was the FL80A. Looked to be a pretty similar ratchet, and that one was going for $170. And then for the Nepros, the part number on that is NBR390. FL, F for flex head, and L for long. All these are the long version, except for maybe the Koken, but I'm not too sure. But anyways, the Nepros on the USA site was listed at $149. Then lastly, we got the Koken 37267-280. And on Koken USA, that was listed for $130. Now, I did not pay any of those prices for these, especially when it comes to the Japanese tools. I've noticed you can kind of shop around, and the prices will be dramatically different in some cases. This I bought on Amazon Japan. I think after shipping and everything to the house, it was $120. So that was about, $30 cheaper than what's listed on their website. And then the Koken I bought on Paulmark. It was on sale for $100, not the $130 at the list price. However, the difference between that website and Koken USA is you do have to pay for shipping. And I have found, depending what you're buying, it ends up being the same price through them or as Koken. Plus, when you bought off Paulmark, I think it just ships from Koken anyways. But when I bought this, I bought some other tools, so it was still cheaper to do it that way. Anyways, Snap-on dual 80 tooth ratchet. Nepros is 90 teeth. And then 72 tooth for the Koken. Now, what I have found from using them is, honestly, I don't think there's a massive difference in the amount of teeth. Like, it doesn't seem that dramatic from a 72 tooth even up to the 90. Same thing with the Snap-on. Now, this might be almost an outdated video now because Snap-on has the 100 tooth ratchets coming out, or some are already out. I do own one. It's just not a flex head. But again, even from the 80 tooth Snap-on to the 100 tooth, it doesn't seem like it's night and day difference. It's not worth upgrading, so to speak, from the 80 to the 100. I have a separate video, though, where I talk about that. Now, if you're in a super tight pinch, it might make the difference. I'm not sure what the angle is on these. I know that I think is 4.5 degrees. Because the new one, I think, is 3.6 on the 100 tooth. But anyways, let's just get into it. This is the plate from the Snap-on. Quite a bit of debris in there. It is a sealed ratchet, but looks like oil has still gotten past that. Now, some of that might just be dirt mixed with the lubrication, excuse me, that comes in from factory. It's a fairly thick plate. Some cheaper ratchets, I have noticed those plates will be like paper thin. They're actually bendable. Gear wrenches that way. Not that gear wrench is a bad ratchet, but that's what I'm sure they do to cut costs. Matco, which is practically a gear wrench, but I don't want to get into that argument. It's that way. I don't own a Matco ratchet at the moment, but do like to see the thicker plate. That's the point. Now, how big of a difference that makes, I don't know in the actual function of the ratchet, but here we go. That's why it's a dual 80. You have two pawls. One will be in contact depending if you're in the off or on, so to speak. And you have 7 teeth in contact on these. Got a little spring there. And then there's a W spring, I believe they call it. Kind of hard to see, especially with all that crud in there. There you go. And then your selector. And there's a spring right there that I guess just puts tension on that when the plate's on. I will clean this out and relube it, but just not today. That'll be, I need to buy some of the super lube to go ahead and do that. I've had no issues with these ratchets. I'm sure other people have had them grenade. I've heard people say. I have seen selector switches break. Apparently that's a common problem. And then the anvil, but over 9 years it's held up just fine. I have no issues with it. No complaints on that. And then over here on the Nepros, where's the plate? Here's the plate there. So it's still, again, a pretty thick plate. These are not sealed ratchets. I don't believe the Koken or the Nepros are. But in comparison, it's even a thicker plate. This one was not fun to get off. I've had 2 Nepros ratchets. I've tried taking the plate off, and they're really, they're pretty good. You have 2 Phillips that come in through front of the ratchet there. Now snap-on, I did notice, back to that topic real quick, is I have some 1/4-inch ratchets. Both all the, I think 1/4-inch is technically 72 tooth, but the screws for the plate go in through the front, and then on the newer ones that I purchased more recently, they go in through the back. However, the snap-on 3/8 dual 80s I have, they all come in through the front. I think the 100 tooth is they're going through the back now. But that is just that. 90 tooth, single pawl there, but you have the teeth on one side. And I think there's like 6 or 7 teeth. I think it's 7. It's kind of hard to see that are in contact, so similar to the snap-on. Let's see if I can count real quick. It's kind of hard to see. It looks like 7. A little bit more of a common design in this Nepros ratchet that you'll see on some other ones. I'm sure there's a spring in there. I think you can actually see it. I don't know if that's the same spring though that runs all the way up through there. Then you got your ball, and then a spring, I'm sure, in there. Some older ratchets will use maybe something that's similar to this, but you'd have the teeth on that selector switch that would go into there, but they still have the pawl between the selector switch and the gear itself. This one is a quick release ratchet. The other 2 are not. It does look like there's some lubrication in there, some oil. Don't, like I said, not a sealed ratchet. I'd prefer ratchets to be sealed. Just makes sense to me over the long run, although as you can tell, it looks like the snap-on debris still has gotten in there. But that is after 9 years or so of use. And then the Koken right there. Now, of course, if you've ever watched a video on Koken, somebody's going to mention back drag, and there is very little back drag on these ratchets. It's quite a nice ratchet to use. I would say out of any ratchet, ignoring all the other features, just the simple using in it, in use, I guess I'm trying to say, of the ratchet, it's the nicest, it's the smoothest, I think. But anyways, back to the inside of it here. You have a floating pawl, I think is how they refer to it. This is 2 pieces here and there. I think the 36 tooth, this was just one. Kind of looks similar, but it was one solid piece. Again, I want to say it's close to 7 teeth. See if I can count there. Looks to be about 7. Again, that are going to be in contact at one time on the ratchet. I'm sure there's a spring in there. That's just how it rotates through. I haven't seen any other ratchet that has a design quite like that. Little bit, similar, I guess, to the Nepros, just in the fact it's not the dual like that, but it is a unique design. Applied a bunch of torque to it. Some people I've heard say, I'll only mention this particular comment because I've seen a couple of people say it, that they'll use this as their main ratchet, the Koken, and then use their snap-on for, anything that's particularly a tight fastener or whatever. And I guess it can make sense if we're worried about it breaking, just because it probably is easier to warranty the snap-on than is a Koken. But I'll get into warranties later. But I'm not afraid. It seems like a very well-built, tough ratchet. I just wish they were sealed out of the 3. I do like to see, when you're starting to spend a higher dollar, a more unique design to the ratcheting head, maybe like a little bit more, development went into it. So the Koken I like, the Snap-on I like, even the Nepros isn't bad. But sometimes you can open up some of the cheaper ratchets, they almost all look the same, is what I guess I'm trying to get at. It's nice to see a little bit of a different design on the inside. But again, back to the plate, here's a Koken one. Still pretty thick plate. Again, not sealed. And then this one is only held by one fastener that goes through the back of the head. So I'm just going to go ahead and put these back together now so you can see the rest of the ratchet. I haven't had any issues with one of these backing out. I think it's a T10 on this one. No, it's a T9. If it works, it works. Why have to? And then this is our Nepros. Yeah, it was not a... Actually, what I did to get this plate off is put a socket on the end of it. It was a spark plug socket. It's happened to have lying around. So I can grip it, get a pull on the socket to get that plate to pop off. It was on there pretty good. Yeah, so I've used the Snap-on ratchet, like I said, I've had for about 9 years as my main ratchet. I have used it a ton. The Nepros ratchet I've had for about a year now. I think just under a year. I did use that for work for a while, and then I brought it home. And it's my main ratchet at home. Again, no issues with it, but it's not used anywhere near as much as I've used the Snap-on ratchet. And then the Koken I got about a week ago. I don't remember if I mentioned this or not because I've tried recording this video like a couple times now and then the camera dying. But anyways, used it all at work last week, and then I used it on a timing cover job that I just did at my house. It's been great. No issues on that. I do like the ratchet. We'll get into some more specifics here in a second. I don't know. I think I gotta pop these holes kind of all sprung out on me. Oh, there's the O-ring. Yeah, and then you got an O-ring resting right there, which I don't remember if that's supposed to go into the plate. Yeah, that should go into there. Get it back in. There we go. Those paws pop back in now. I'm gonna clean this all out pretty soon anyways. Got a few ratchets I wanna go in and re-clean. I'm not sure, somebody explained it to me once, back to the whole, these going in through the back or the front. Because Mac Tools, I guess is probably T9, is Proto, but they switched it from the back or the front to the back, or vice versa for a reason. But I just can't remember exactly why he said that. It was a while ago when that was mentioned. Get this one last. Fastener in. There we go. Oh, and that do something right. I don't know, we're ratcheting. Okay. Anyways, they're all, I don't know if this is considered the long handle or not, or if they have this shorter. I'm pretty sure they do because I've seen photos of it. So it should be a long. Nepros being the longest, of course. That's kind of all preference, The lengths they are, I think they work just fine for a long-handled ratchet. The snap on there, not a ton of flop to it. Haven't really had an issue with that. I know sometimes they're all over the place, but there's no detent or anything like that. To whereas, here's the Nepros. You have that like nylon piece in there that applies, feels like it applies a pretty good amount of resistance on the head. I do like that a lot. I will note something about the Nepros ratchets, is somebody had pointed out in a video that it's KTC's who owns them. They're pretty much a KTC ratchet, just a little fancier. It's got the nicer chrome on it, stuff like that. I own one KTC ratchet, but it's a little bit, oh, excuse me, a little bit, it's the, what do you call that? It's the one where the head's like a ball, a swivel head. There we go. Excuse me. Just getting over a cold from about a week ago, so I still got a little bit of a cough. But anyways, I've seen a video of somebody reviewing a KTC ratchet, and it looks like the flex head is still that design as well. I think KTC is a pretty good brand, much more affordable than, say, Snap-on or even the Nepros line. But yeah, back to the flex head, and then the Snap-on, or excuse me, the Koken here has a little ball in there, and it kind of locks into place. Not super locked in, but I'd imagine over time that's going to help out a lot if you want to keep the head from moving around too much. Where the Snap-on doesn't. Now, I've seen some videos lately saying that you're not supposed to tighten that to adjust, if it gets loose, and that there's a wash in there, which that might be correct. However, if you do look up the Dual 80 Snap-on ratchet on YouTube, just search it up, and there'll be a video from Snap-on themselves going over the new, it's a pretty old video, but going over the Dual 80 design, and it specifically states to tighten that if this gets loose. That's just a little piece of information there. I haven't had a mess with it. It's never gotten worse than what it is now. But anyways, back to the ratchets. The slimmest design is probably the Koken. Snap-on being, a significant amount wider. I don't think it's too crazy. I haven't really had an issue with this getting into any particularly tight spots to whereas, I think one or the other would make the difference, but it could. These two are kind of similar in the taper. Koken is probably thinner than the Nepros. I don't have a micrometer on me, otherwise I'd tell you exactly, but pretty close to the Snap-on. Still technically a little slimmer if you go off the end of the anvil. The only one out of these that is the quick release is a Nepros. I thought I had ordered this as a quick release ratchet, the Koken. But on their website, Paul Mark, they had like a few different ratchets that were very similar. The part numbers were slightly different. And I wasn't really sure what the difference was. I think one was a little shorter. But I wanted the quick release. Not that I prefer quick release, but I just wanted to test out how, the setup is for the Koken. And when it delivered and I seen it wasn't, I looked up. And this was the only part number now that comes up at all on the 3/8 ratchets. The other ones weren't even listed, so they switched something up. But which is fine. The only reason why I don't like quick release is I've never really had an issue with things falling off the end of the ratchet, and then if your hands are tied up somewhere and you got to switch sockets, it's just easier to, do that without having to press the button to get the socket on. But that being said, I do like, though, on this ratchet that the button is completely flush with the back of the head. So you don't got to worry about that probably getting bumped as much or in the way. And now as far as handles go, the Nepros is definitely my favorite handle. It widens out towards the bottom and where the groove is for your fingers. It's, I think, a very comfortable handle. The Snap-on, I don't think it's bad. It's not uncomfortable to me. I'm definitely used to it from using Snap-on ratchets the most over the years. And then down to the Koken, it's kind of the same thing. I don't think it's a huge difference between the Snap-on to the Koken. I'm not a fan of soft grip handles, mainly just because of how they hold up over the years. But the Z series lineup of Koken, it's the only handle that they offer. I don't know if you can replace this or not. It might slide off, but it kind of feel like that part might get in the way. I'm not too sure. It's not uncomfortable. If you like soft grip, then this probably isn't a problem. I do like hard grips, like on the Snap-on ones, but I had already bought all my ratchets like that before I had gotten a hard grip. Like I have a 1/2-inch hard grip Snap-on ratchet, and I have a 1/4-inch, a really old 1/4-inch, so it's like 36 tooth ratchets. So I kind of do like the hard hand, so maybe even more than these, but this is what I have. So for the price, Koken ends up being the most affordable. The jump from Nepros to Snap-on, I really don't. Kind of in the same ballpark. I mean, you're talking 150 versus 170. It's a great ratchet. I like them. But, there's a whole tool truck thing, which I don't go off. I understand it's a lot easier to warranty something when the truck comes to you, but the problem like I've had personally is I worked at a big dealership. It was a Dodge dealership, but we didn't have a Snap-on guy that hardly ever showed up. I mean, about a year and a half that I was there, he showed up maybe 3 or 4 times, and then we didn't have a Mac guy at all there. It was just Matco and Snap-on that came. I currently now get Snap-on, Mac, and Matco, and a Cornwell dealer. But the Cornwell and Matco hardly show up. Mac and Snap-on show up every week. But like I've ordered stuff from Snap-on, I've been waiting a month and a half for now. Point being is if they don't have it in stock on the truck, and if the guy's not willing to come to your shop, you might have to wait till whatever, it could be a week or whatever, how long it is till it comes back. It's not super quick, and a lot of these manufacturers are trying to, I think, keep up with that. I think they know that the competitors, the tool trucks, they have that advantage. So like I hear like Sunnex that you can just take a photo of the broken socket. They'll send you out another one. I'd imagine you have to send that broken socket back in because otherwise you could just be taking photos of broken tools and getting a whole new set. I don't know. So I think they're trying to keep up with that. But point being, back to the warranties of what we have here at hand is Snap-on, obviously easily warrantable. Koken, I believe the ratchets in USA, they will warranty the heads. I don't think in Japan that's really a thing, the lifetime warranty, from what I understand. And then the Nepros, I don't think they have a lifetime. I could be wrong on that, though. Probably should have gotten that down before I make the video, but fact check me on that one. And then lastly, the selector switches I did want to mention. Traditionally off or loosen, left, right, whatever. It's on the right side. That's on. It's the same way for the Nepros. However, the Koken, it's flipped. So I'm not going to dock them for that because it's not really a functionality issue. It's just if you're like me, you're super used to having it be the one way. Although I did start to get used to it after using it for a while. But the biggest complaint on the Koken ratchet is it's a super easy selector to move. And sometimes when you're in a tight spot or you're, ratcheting away, I tend to hit that and it switches direction on me, which is kind of annoying. Is I think a significant factor. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but it does happen. I've not had that happen on, I don't think, any other ratchet I've owned, to be honest. But, it is what it is. Kind of just wanted to show you guys so you guys can make your own opinions as much as you can based on the video. I've never had an issue with the Snap-on, but Snap-on prices are kind of insane right now. And I don't think they're going to get any cheaper. And if you can get them on the BOGOs, it definitely becomes a better deal. However, I noticed like some Snap-on dealers don't have those buy one get one frees, and people are saying it's because they'd rather just sell them full price. Money and all that. But that's a different topic altogether. But point being, they all have different advantages and stuff. I like these handle a lot. I think the Nepros line, it's some pretty good stuff. The Koken, I enjoy. I think the ratcheting mechanism itself is my favorite to use so far. Overall, though, I like all 3 ratchets. I bought them for a reason. Don't need all 3, but they're all good ratchets. But once again, thanks for watching.